Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to Get Hit with the Truth. So today we are doing the 2023 Boxing Awards, and this video is going to be on the Win of the Year. Now, before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel, I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel here. So the Win of the Year, what does that mean? What does that entail? Well, it's basically the biggest win in boxing overall. Like, we already did the Contenders Win of the Year. We already did the Title Defense of the Year. We already did the Title Win of the Year. This is overall, between all three of those, what were the biggest wins, and then the final, the biggest win of the year. Now, I'm going to do what I've been doing. I'm going to go through each division from 122 all the way to heavyweight, and we're going to discuss the three biggest wins in each division. If a fight is one of the 12 finalists, I will say that during the division, and I won't discuss it until we get to the top 12. So let's get started at 122 pounds super bantamweight. Take a look at the first candidate, which is Naoya Inoue's 10th round knockout of Marlon Tapales to unify all four belts and become the undisputed super bantamweight champion. This is a finalist, a top 12, so we will discuss that later. Next candidate is Naoya Inoue's 8th round TKO of Stephen Fulton Jr. to capture the WBO and WBC unified super bantamweight title. This is also a finalist, so we will discuss this one later. And the final candidate is Marlon Tapales' 12-round split decision over MJ Marajan Akhmadaliev to capture the WBA and IBF unified super bantamweight title. Heading into this one, Marlon Tapales was a big underdog. He was a mandatory challenger, but he really hadn't done anything to earn his mandatory spot. He was a former champ at 118, but again, hadn't really done much, and he had fought Ryosuke Iwasa in a final eliminator years earlier and got stopped, and then Iwasa went on to challenge Akhmadaliev and got stopped himself. So, you know, nobody was really giving him a chance. MJ was a number 2 fighter in the division, was a unified champ, and was looking to possibly unify all four belts and go for undisputed later in the year. But Marlon Tapales would ruin all that, as instead of brawling with MJ, he decided to counterpunch and box, and as MJ was plotting away looking for one punch at a time, and Tapales just outworked him the first half of the fight. In the second half, when MJ put his foot on the gas pedal, Tapales continued to counterpunch and land good shots, and he had done enough at the end of 12 to get a close 12-round split decision win and become the new unified champion at 122. And this one was big because it led to his undisputed title shot against Naoya Inoue in December of 2023. So big time fight and victory for Inoue. For Tapales. At 126, first candidate is Leigh Wood's 7th round TKO over Josh Warrington to retain the WBA featherweight title. This one coming in was viewed as almost a 50-50 fight. It was an all UK battle. Leigh Wood and Josh Warrington had been circling each other for a couple years trying to set up a fight. Wood was had just regained the title by defeating Mauricio Lara, and Josh Warrington was bouncing back off a 10-month absence from a tough but close decision loss to Luis Alberto Lopez, in which he lost the IBF title. So Wood and Warrington both had an impression to make. Wood went in the favorite, but Warrington would dominate the action. He really would pour it on Leigh Wood for the first 6 rounds. I had him winning 5 of those 6 rounds. He was well ahead, and then Wood hit him with a vicious combination in the 7th round and stopped him impressively to retain the WBA featherweight title. It was a big win for Leigh Wood right here. Next candidate is Rafael Espinosa's 12-round majority decision victory over Robeisy Ramirez to capture the WBO featherweight title. Espinosa came in a big underdog, was undefeated, had a lot of knockouts, but hadn't really beaten anybody, and Robeisy Ramirez was hot. He was a former Olympic gold medalist who had captured the WBO title earlier in the year, made a successful defense in between, and then went in against Espinosa. I was worried, though, because of Espinosa's 6-inch reach and 6-inch height advantage, and that ended up being the key, but this was not an easy task. Espinosa was winning the fight, but was getting hit with shots. It was close, and then he got hit with a brutal right hook that put him down hard and almost finished him and knocked him out. But he got up and he weathered the storm, and in the championship rounds, he fought like a champion, outworking Ramirez, and I believe he put him down as well and secured a close 12-round majority decision victory to become the WBO featherweight champion in a Fight of the Year candidate. Next is Brandon Figueroa's 12-round unanimous decision over Mark Magsayo to capture the WBC interim featherweight title. This one going in, a lot of people were excited. They were looking forward. They thought it was going to be a banger, and it was. It delivered. It was a very good fight, all action, but Brandon Figueroa outworked Mark Magsayo, but it should have been scored close. The judges scored it wide, but it was a very good fight that led to a big thing it led to, Figueroa got the decision and became the WBC interim champion, and he should be cashing in on the title shot against Rey Vargas very soon. So this was a good win. 130 super featherweight. First is Emmanuel Navarrete's 12-round unanimous decision over Oscar Valdez to retain the WBO super featherweight title. Heading into this one, this is a fight everybody wanted to see, and it really was the battle for the top spot at 130. 130 had been wide open since Shakur Stevenson gave up his unified title after beating Valdez the year before. So Valdez was kind of the de facto number one before Navarrete moved up and captured the WBO super featherweight title. But Navarrete defeated a guy outside of the top 10 and Liam Wilson, so he had to prove himself against Valdez, who was a previous number one in this division. And Navarrete would do just that. He absolutely dominated Oscar Valdez. Valdez was competitive at moments, but he could not keep up with the pace that Navarrete set, as Navarrete just busted him up and beat him up and scored a convincing 12-round unanimous decision in this one. Next is O'Shaquie Foster's 12-round unanimous decision over Rey Vargas to capture the vacant WBC title. Foster came in the betting underdog. Rey Vargas was the undefeated featherweight champion, was a two-division champ coming in, was looking for a championship in a third weight class. He requested the fight for the vacant title, and Foster, who hadn't really done much to that point, was viewed as the underdog. But I picked Foster to win this fight because of the style clash and the size difference, and he went out there and delivered. He boxed great, outworked the very good and undefeated Rey Vargas to a convincing 12-round unanimous decision and captured his first world title in the process. And the third candidate goes to Joe Cordina's 12-round split decision win over Shavkat Rakhimov to capture the IBF super featherweight title. Heading in, this was a 50-50 fight. Cordina was fighting at home, though, and he was definitely rested following him being stripped of the title the year before when he was due to make a mandatory against Rakhimov. Rakhimov went on to fight for the vacant title against Zelfa Barrett and captured it. So this fight was a mandatory showdown, and a lot of people were looking forward to it, and it delivered. They went back and forth, but Cordina scored a key knockdown early in the fight and went on to outwork Rakhimov and take a very close 12-round split decision to become a two-time IBF super featherweight champ. So big win right there for Cordina. 135 lightweight. We have, gonna look at the three candidates. First is Devin Haney's 12-round unanimous decision over Vasily Lomachenko to retain the undisputed lightweight title. This is a finalist, so we'll discuss this one later. Next was Gervonta Tank Davis's 9th round TKO victory over Hector Luis Garcia, as he would retain the WBA secondary lightweight title. This one heading in, Davis was the odds-on favorite, but Hector Luis Garcia was a good junior lightweight champion, was undefeated, and was moving up to fight him, but it was billed as a pretext to a showdown with Ryan Garcia later in the year. And Davis, made a good undefeated fighter. He beat him up and broke him down and stopped him in 9 rounds, but it was still a good win. And the third candidate goes to Raymond Muratala's 2nd round TKO victory over Jeremiah Nakathila in a contenders bout. Muratala was an undefeated fighter that, an exciting fighter, but he hadn't really done anything And Nakathila was a guy who had fought for, an interim title. He had knocked off Miguel Berchelt the year before, so he came in the favorite. And Muratalla proceeded to destroy Nakathila in only 2 rounds. Impressive victory. It was on a big card, too. It was on the Devin Haney, Vasily Lomachenko undercard. So a lot of people saw it. Good win right here for Muratalla. Next up at 140, we look at our 3 candidates. First off was Teofimo Lopez's 12-round unanimous decision over Josh Taylor to capture the WBO title. This is a finalist. We will discuss this one later. Next was Tank Davis's 7th-round TKO victory over Ryan Garcia when they met at their catchweight fight at 136 pounds. This was a finalist. We will discuss this one later. And third was Devin Haney's 12-round unanimous decision over Regis Prograis to capture the WBC title here at 140. And heading in, it was viewed as Devin Haney was the favorite, but there were people, myself included, that thought Prograis stood a decent chance as an underdog because of how good Prograis had been over the past few years, in the division. But it wasn't close. Devin Haney went in there and absolutely shut out and dominated Regis Prograis, put him down earlier in the fight, and just absolutely dominated him over 12 one-sided rounds to capture a championship in his 2nd weight class. So a big win right there for Devin Haney. Next, we are going to move to 147 welterweight and look at our 3 candidates. First was Terrence Crawford's 9th-round TKO victory over Errol Spence Jr. to unify all 4 welterweight titles and become the undisputed welterweight champion of the world. This is a finalist. We will discuss this one later. Next candidate was Mario Barrios' 12-round unanimous decision over Yordenis Ugas to win the vacant WBC interim title. This was a big fight right here for Ugas and Barrios. Ugas was returning after a 1.5-year layoff, and, from a beatdown loss that he suffered at the hands of Errol Spence Jr. But there were a lot of people that thought he was going to go in there and just cleanly outbox and outclass the younger, bigger Mario Barrios. But Barrios used his youth and his size in this fight, and he fought the fight of his life as he completely outworked and outboxed and outclassed the veteran and former champ Yordenis Ugas to a very clean 12-round unanimous decision in this one as he became the WBC interim champ. And that will lead to a title shot soon in 2024. Next was Giovanni Santillan's 6th-round knockout of Alexis Rocha when they met in a contenders bout. Heading into this one, Rocha was the odds-on favorite. He was the WBO's #1 ranked contender, and he was basically viewed as just fighting Santillan to somewhat stay busy ahead of a potential fight against Crawford for the WBO title. But man, did he get it wrong, as he went in and Giovanni Santillan absolutely beat the shit out of Alexis Rocha, broke him down, beat him up, and scored a brutal 6th-round knockout win as he moved himself into the WBO's #1 position with that victory. Now we're going to be seeing, likely once Crawford gives up the belt at 147, you're likely going to see Santillan compete for the vacant title, maybe against Cody Crowley. So this led to a big thing. 154, super welterweight. We're going to look at our 3 candidates there. And the first one was Brian Mendoza's 7th-round knockout of Sebastian Fundora to capture the WBC interim title. Heading into this one, Brian Mendoza was a virtual unknown. He had been in a ring with a couple decent fighters, but hadn't really done much, and nobody was giving him a chance against Fundora, who was the boogeyman of 154, the guy nobody wanted to fight. And, it was just that puncher's chance. And for over 6 rounds and into the 7th, Sebastian Fundora was dominating the action. He was well ahead. He had won every round. But in the 7th round, a wicked left hook landed for Brian Mendoza, followed up by a straight right hand that flattened Sebastian Fundora, as Brian Mendoza went on to score a major upset and become the WBC interim champion. And with this win, it led to a title shot against Tim Tszyu later in the year. So a big win for Brian Mendoza right here. Next candidate at 154 was Tim Tszyu's 12-round unanimous decision over Brian Mendoza to retain the WBO super welterweight title. Tim Tszyu had proven himself earlier in the year by dominating Tony Harrison, the former champ, and he had also destroyed Carlos Ocampo in 1 round. So he was heading in against Brian Mendoza here, who was coming off the win over Sebastian Fundora and was looking to prove a point. And he would completely outwork and outbox and outclass Brian Mendoza over 12 hard-fought rounds. Mendoza was definitely in the fight, but this was Tim Tszyu's night as he outworked and outdid the upset-minded Brian Mendoza with this victory. And the third candidate goes to Tim Tszyu's 9th round TKO victory over Tony Harrison to capture the vacant WBO interim super welterweight title. So Tim Tszyu was a mandatory challenger. He was due to fight Jermell Charlo for the undisputed title, but Charlo had to pull out with an injury, so Tim Tszyu wanted to stay on track, so he would take on the only man that had beaten Charlo to that point, the resurgent Tony Harrison. And Harrison was coming off of a big win the year prior over Sergio Garcia, so there was a lot of people that thought Tony Harrison was the toughest challenge of Tim Tszyu's career and was going to beat him, and I was one of those guys. I picked against Tim Tszyu in this fight, and Tim Tszyu went out there and absolutely dominated Tony Harrison over 9 rounds to secure a 9th round TKO victory, as he would become the WBO interim super welterweight champ. That led to him being upgraded to champion later in the year and defeating Brian Mendoza with a good, solid, unanimous decision. So this win over Tony Harrison was a big one for Tim Tszyu. Excuse me 1 second. Next, we're going to move to 160 and look at the 3 biggest wins at 160 pounds middleweight. First up goes to Janibek Alamanhalai's 6th-round TKO over Vicente Gualtieri to unify middleweight titles. Heading into this one, Janibek was the big favorite going in, but he hadn't really been tested, and Vicente Gualtieri had pulled off the upset over Esquiva Falchao to capture the vacant IBF title. So there were some of those that thought that he could pull this victory off, and he would come in with that mindset of trying to pull off a major upset. But Janibek was just too much, too strong, and he dominated Gualtieri, stopping him in 6 rounds and unifying belts at 160, a wide open division. He took that and became a double champion, and now holds half of the titles at 160, which is significant. Next goes to Chris Eubank Jr.'s 10th round TKO victory over Liam Smith in their rematch. Chris Eubank Jr. heading into this one, it was kind of a 50-50. He was more of the underdog after he had blown it in his first fight with Liam Smith earlier in the year when Smith stopped him in the 4th round. So Chris Eubank had a lot to prove heading into this fight, and he would prove that as he absolutely outboxed and dominated Liam Smith, putting him down a couple times en route to a 10th round revenge TKO victory over Liam Smith. He added Bomac, Terrence Crawford's trainer, for this fight, and that is a big plus that helped him out into securing this victory. And the third win at 160 to talk about is Liam Smith's 4th round TKO victory over Chris Eubank Jr. in their first fight. Heading into this one, it was somewhat of a 50-50 fight, but Liam Smith was definitely the underdog. But Chris Eubank had never even been hurt, let alone put down, and Liam Smith absolutely dominated him in only 4 rounds. He went out there and jumped on Chris Eubank, stopped him in, landed a big left hook that hurt him badly and put him down, and stopped him in the 4th round to push forward, with a major upset and major win for Liam Smith. 168, super middleweight. The top 3, first up goes to David Benavidez for his 6th round TKO victory over Demetrius Andrade to retain the WBO interim super middleweight title. This is a finalist. We'll discuss this later. Next goes to Canelo Alvarez's 12-round unanimous decision over Jermell Charlo to retain the undisputed super middleweight title. This is also a finalist. We'll discuss this later. And the third candidate is David Benavidez's 12-round unanimous decision over Caleb Plant to retain the WBC interim super middleweight title. This is a finalist. We will discuss this later. 175. First candidate was Arthur Beterbiev. 8th round TKO victory over Anthony Yarde to retain the unified light heavyweight title. This is a finalist. We'll discuss this later. Next was Dimitri Bivol's 12-round unanimous decision over Lyndon Arthur to retain the WBA light heavyweight title. You know, Lyndon Arthur went in a big underdog into this one, so nobody thought he was really going to win, but it was on the Day of Reckoning card, and Dimitri Bivol was trying to prove, you know, his dominance over light heavyweight following him being the fighter of the year in 2022. And he would absolutely shut out and dominate Lyndon Arthur in this one, 12 one-sided rounds to retain his light heavyweight title. Next goes to Michael Eifert's 12-round unanimous decision over Jean Pascal to become the IBF's mandatory challenger. Heading into this one, Michael Eifert was a big unknown. He hadn't really been tested yet, and he was coming in against Jean Pascal, who was 40 years old but drinks from the fountain of youth and pulls off upsets against younger fighters all the time. And a lot of people thought, myself included, that Jean Pascal was just going to win this one and get himself another title shot. But Michael Eifert had different plans. He went out there and absolutely outboxed and outworked the former two-time champion en route to a 12-round unanimous decision as he became the IBF's mandatory challenger at the time. 200 cruiserweight. The three candidates there. First is Chris Billam-Smith's 12-round majority decision over Lawrence Okolie to capture the WBO cruiserweight title. Billam-Smith went into this one ranked out of the top 10. Nobody was really giving him a chance against Okolie, who was the most avoided fighter at 200 pounds because of his height and his style. Nobody really wanted to fight him. So Billam-Smith signed on in an all-UK battle and absolutely pressured Lawrence Okolie, put him down 3 or 4 times, and fought tough en route to a 12-round majority decision win as he would capture the WBO cruiserweight title. Lawrence Okolie didn't even sign up for a rematch in this one, so that should show you some significance on what this one meant. Big time win right here for Chris Billam-Smith. Next goes to Badou Jack's 12th round TKO over Ilunga Makabu to capture the WBC title. Heading into this one, Jack was a considerable underdog. He was a former 2-division champ, but he was 39 years old, and he was going in for a third title against a champion in Makabu who was a career cruiserweight. But so a lot of people thought, myself included, that Makabu was going to break down the old man Jack and stop him. But Badou Jack absolutely out-hustled and outworked the younger man, dominating him and stopping him in 12 rounds to capture a championship in a third weight class at 39 years old. So a big win right there. And the final candidate goes to Noel Gavor for his 3rd round knockout win over Ilunga Makabu to capture the vacant WBC title. You know, Gavor, it was kind of viewed as a 50-50 fight because you had Makabu, who was coming off that loss to Badou Jack, and then you had Gavor, who hadn't really done anything in quite some time, but was the WBC's #1 contender. And Gavor went out there and absolutely destroyed Ilunga Makabu. He stopped him in only 3 rounds to capture the vacant belt and put himself in line for bigger things in 2024. And heavyweight, the 3 candidates there. First up is Zhilei Zhang's 3rd round knockout victory over Joe Joyce in their rematch as he retained the WBO interim heavyweight championship. This is a finalist. We'll discuss this later. Next was Joseph Parker's 12-round unanimous decision over Deontay Wilder to put himself in a contender's bout. Heading into this one, Joseph Parker was really being given no chance of pulling off the upset over Wilder. He was a cagey veteran, but he hadn't really done much in terms of victories. You know, and he was coming off a knockout loss the year before against Joe Joyce, who got brutally knocked out, you know, himself against Zhilei Zhang earlier in the year. And again, so a lot of people were viewing Joseph Parker as cannon fodder, as a piece of meat for the lion that is Deontay Wilder. And Joseph Parker went in there and absolutely neutralized Deontay in this fight. He outworked him, stepped in whenever Wilder tried to extend and cut off the distance to not let Wilder extend that big right hand, as he outworked him to a 12-round, one-sided unanimous decision as he pushed forward. And now he's got a big fight with Zhilei Zhang coming up, does Joseph Parker, following that victory. And the last candidate at heavyweight goes to Alexander Usyk's 9th round knockout victory over Daniel Dubois to retain the unified heavyweight championship of the world. Heading into this one, Usyk was the solid favorite, but Daniel Dubois was a big, heavy-hitting puncher and a young guy, so some people thought he stood a chance. He had his moments, but Usyk just so quick. His counter-punching ability, the way he attacks, was just all on form outside of a questionable belt line shot that landed in the 5th round that was ruled a low blow. He got up from that, recovered, and dominated and stopped a tough Daniel Dubois in 9 rounds. So now we are going to look at the top 12 from 12 to 1 and look at the win, or the overall win of the year, the biggest win of the year. We start with number 12, and that goes to Zhilei Zhang's 3rd round knockout victory over Joe Joyce to retain the WBO interim heavyweight title. Heading into this one, Zhang was coming off the victory over Joyce about 5 months earlier, where he stopped him in 6 rounds, but there were a lot of people that were favoring, Joe Joyce was the solid favorite. He was the most feared man in the heavyweight division heading into the first fight. So then this rematch, and because his eyes swelled up, there was a lot of people, detractors, that were saying Zhilei Zhang can't do it again. He was lucky enough to bust up Joe Joyce's eye early, and that's what cost Joe Joyce the fight. Well, this one he left no doubt. He landed clean punches and a brutal knockout punch in the 3rd round that put Joe Joyce down and out, leaving no doubt that he was the biggest and best. And Zhilei Zhang almost, well, now he's getting a crack at Joseph Parker, the Deontay Wilder defeater, and he should get a big fight late in the year as well. So Zhilei Zhang totally took advantage in that rematch, and that was a huge win, to leave no doubt. Number 11 goes to Canelo Alvarez's 12-round unanimous decision over John Ryder to retain the undisputed super middleweight title. I know a lot of people didn't know John Ryder, but John Ryder is a very solid, very good super middleweight. He just ran into a very technically sound and Hall of Fame fighter in Canelo Alvarez. He did the best he could, but Canelo dominated him over 12 one-sided rounds. He was a mandatory challenger, but Canelo got out of there with a one-sided shutout unanimous decision after scoring a couple knockdowns and beating up John Ryder and bloodying him. So big win there. Number 10 goes to David Benavidez and his 12-round unanimous decision over Caleb Plant. Heading into this one, Benavidez was the clear favorite, but Caleb Plant was a good former champion. He was coming out off of the knockout of the year after defeating, putting away former champ Anthony Durrell with a brutal 9th round knockout. So there was a lot of people that felt that Plant packed power that we didn't know about, and that with his boxing ability, he was going to give David Benavidez trouble. And in the first 6 rounds, it was a pretty even fight. It was a good competitive bout. But in the second half, David Benavidez put his foot on the gas pedal and absolutely dominated Caleb Plant over 12 rounds and took a convincing 12-round unanimous decision as he retained the WBC interim title with that win. Number 9 goes to Arthur Beterbiev for his 8th round TKO over Anthony Yarde to retain the unified light heavyweight title. Heading into this one, there was a lot of people that said Dimitri Bivol deserved to be the number 1 guy. But Arthur Beterbiev really showed the heart of a lion in this fight, as he was behind on the scorecards heading into the 8th round, and he had been stunned a couple times by big shots by the hard-hitting Yarde. But he had broken down Yarde beat him to the body and beat him up. And in the 8th round, he finished him off and left no doubt, stopping him as he was behind on the cards to retain the unified light heavyweight title with that big win. So that was definitely a big win for Beterbiev. Number 8 goes to Tank Davis's 7th round TKO victory over Ryan Garcia when they met at their catchweight fight of 136. Now this win would be bigger if Tank didn't put the extra weight clauses on Ryan Garcia. To have him move down to 136 and avoid fighting at 135 for his secondary title showed me right there that Tank was scared of losing his belt. Having him come down to 136 was ridiculous to begin with because Tank had already fought at 140 where Ryan was. And then he put a 10-pound weight clause or rehydration clause on Ryan as well, to where Ryan the next day couldn't weigh more than 146. So he really handcuffed Ryan Garcia in this fight. He went out though and had a good performance. I can't deny that. And he scored a convincing TKO win over Ryan. But the weight clauses were just ridiculous. I would have been fine if he would have done one or the other. If they would have fought at 140 and he told Ryan, okay, you can't weigh more than 150 the day of the fight, I would have been okay with that. If he would have ordered 136 and told Ryan, okay, you can balloon up as much as you want as long as you come down to 136, I would have been okay with that. But he didn't do that. And I thought that was just pure on ridiculous. But it was a significant win and one of the biggest of the year, so it finished number 8 for me. Number 7 goes to Teofimo Lopez in his 12-round unanimous decision over Josh Taylor to capture the WBO junior welterweight title. This was a big win. Josh Taylor, the year before, was the undisputed champion at 140. He had been the best at 140 for about 2 or 3 years, and he was still the number 1 guy and was still undefeated coming into this fight. And there was a lot of doubt surrounding Teofimo Lopez and how good he still was and could be. So for him to come into this fight, and for first to take this fight was a big deal, but for him to come in and absolutely dominate Josh Taylor over 12 rounds to a clear-cut unanimous decision was a big deal, and that finished number 6. Number 5, oh, that was number 7. Number 5 goes to Naoya Inoue's 8th round TKO victory over Stephen Fulton Jr. to become the unified super bantamweight champion at 122 pounds. This might have been, on paper, Inoue's toughest opponent going into a fight. Fulton was bigger, he was a pure boxer, he was a counterpuncher, and a lot of people viewed this fight as 50-50, myself included. I picked Inoue to win, but I thought it was going to be very difficult against a guy like Stephen Fulton, that he was going to give Inoue problems, and Inoue couldn't have made it look any easier. He absolutely dominated this guy from start to finish, left no doubt, and captured the unified super bantamweight title in his debut at super bantamweight. So a big time win for Inoue right here over the undefeated Fulton. Number 5 goes to Devin Haney's 12-round unanimous decision over Vasily Lomachenko to retain the undisputed lightweight champion of the world. Now, this was my most controversial fight of the year. I absolutely didn't feel like he deserved this victory, but he still got it. I thought it was clear that Vasily won. Most people agree with me, but it was a good, it was somewhat close, but I just felt like Devin Haney didn't deserve 7 rounds in this fight, not even close to that. And the judges ruled in favor of Haney, and he retained the undisputed title. So I can't take away from the technical aspect that this was a convincing victory. I mean, that it was a victory for Devin Haney. That technically he did beat him to retain the undisputed title. So can't take that away, but it would have been higher if it would have been a clean win. Number 4 goes to Naoya Inoue's 10th round knockout victory over Marlon Tapales to unify all 4 belts at 122 and become the undisputed super bantamweight champion of the world. This was history right here. This was a big win. Donaire was the heavy favorite coming in, but just to come in and do what he accomplished was a big deal, because only Terrence Crawford had done it prior to this, and that was earlier in the year. And what the history wasn't just becoming undisputed champ. That's historic enough. It was becoming undisputed champion in a second weight class and becoming only the second man to do it in the 4-belt era that we are currently in, that we've been in for quite some time now. For a couple decades, the WBO belt has been significant as well. So that really adds to this victory for Inoue, as he did his undisputed in back-to-back years, which was impressive. So that's why this one finishes number 4. Number 3 goes to Canelo Alvarez's 12-round unanimous decision over Jermell Charlo to retain the undisputed super middleweight championship of the world. This was a big fight on paper. You had Canelo, the undisputed super middleweight champ, the face of boxing, battling Jermell Charlo, the undisputed junior middleweight champ at 154. Charlo was moving up to fight, and even though frame-wise he wasn't the bigger man, height-wise he was he's a boxer at heart, and there was a lot of people that thought he could pull this one out, and Canelo went out there and dominated him. Absolutely dominated him over 12 one-sided rounds, put him down one time as well, and walked away with a clean shutout 12-round unanimous decision as he retained the undisputed super middleweight championship of the world. Number 2 goes to David Benavidez in his 6th-round TKO victory over Demetrius Andrade to retain the WBC interim super middleweight title. Heading into this one, David Benavidez was a solid betting favorite, but Andrade was undefeated. He had made his debut at 168 and wanted to prove himself in this fight against David Benavidez, that he was legit, that he deserved Canelo. And instead of boxing, he tried to get in there and slug it out with David, but David was just too big, too strong, and his combination punching just was too much, his volume, and it just wore down Demetrius Andrade, and he stopped him impressively in the 6th round to absolutely secure the right to fight Canelo Alvarez. I absolutely believe that was a huge win. But the win of the year, the biggest win of the year, by far in my opinion, goes to Terence Crawford's 9th round TKO victory over Errol Spence Jr., as he would unify all 4 welterweight titles and become the undisputed welterweight champion of the world at 147. And then also he became the first man in the 4-belt era to become undisputed champion in 2 weight classes. So he made history there with that, and just a huge win. I mean, they had been dancing around each other for years, so it was a fight that needed to happen. It was a fight that everybody wanted, and he went out there and controlled the action, dominated, and became the undisputed welterweight champion of the world impressively. So such a big win right there for Terence Bud Crawford. It was huge for boxing, and that is my 2023 win of the year, Terence Crawford's 9th round TKO of Danny Garcia. So these are my boxing awards. This was on the win of the year. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.